There is a bunch of things happening in the world of entertainment today, and instead of making separate videos covering each of them, today we will just be going through all of them in one setting. We got drama within the political space and two super heavyweights within the conservative movement. Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire go head-to-head. The new HBO Max series Velma continues to stir up controversy, and our old friend Frosk from the now-defunct G4 TV is back at it again with more Twitter hot takes. Let's start off with probably the biggest news of the last few days, and this is the ongoing feud between Crowder and the people over at Daily Wire. By this point, most people are probably aware of the fact that Steven Crowder left his previous company, The Blaze. Irrespective of what you think of Crowder, there is no denying that he is a massive voice on the right. With that, it was only natural that right-wing independent outlets would all be flocking over in an attempt to lure him into some type of agreement with them. One company that was very eager to have him was Jeremy Boring and the Daily Wire. However, Crowder was not too pleased with the offer that they made and decided to make a full YouTube video exposing the deal and everything that he thought to have been predatory. Now, both parties have since responded to each other in full, and in all honesty, I think both have some very valid points. It is easy to just sit back and pick one side, just like it is easy to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy this video. But anyone who listened intently to the full conversation from both would know that things are not always black and white. In situations like this, you can have two people who are wrong and two people who are correct, and sometimes things just do not work out. Although Crowder might feel like a natural fit for the Daily Wire and an obvious choice to join the team, sadly in this case it was not meant to be. Steven Crowder decided to take everyone online and describe a contract that he received as extremely exploitative. Although at the time he did not specify who this was coming from, most people had a very clear suspicion. In the original piece from Crowder, where he stated that conservative media giants are no better than big tech and referred to all of them as the big con, he exposed his contract while not naming who it was, and in it highlighted a few things. As part of the agreement, who we now know to be Daily Wire will own exclusive rights to sell all merchandise and pretty much keep all of the profits. They will also take ownership of Steven Crowder's email list and will have the right to monetize it as they please. An extremely controversial point in the contract also spoke to social media management, and it stated that Daily Wire will have full rights to manage and monetize all of Crowder's social media accounts. It will, however, exclude existing accounts. Then in another section of the contract that talks about being penalized for failing to deliver any of the 192 daily episodes that will be required of him per year, there will be a $100,000 reduction in pay. Also, if Crowder fails to deliver on his monthly content or quarterly content, there will be a payment reduction of $250,000. They also said that if Steven does not comply with all ad reads required from him, they will fine him $1 million. As quoted, anytime Crowder misses a single example of annual content without written approval, the fee will be reduced by $1 million. If Crowder is sick or goes through temporary disability, they will decide that fee on a pro-rate base, but there will still be a penalty. As most know, Crowder does battle health issues, so this could be a big problem. The penalties do actually get a lot worse when it comes to social media and just overall online media. The contract states that if Crowder is boycotted for any reason by more than 50% of his then extant advertising partners and the company is not able to replace them within 90 days, then 25% of his pay will be taken away until advertisers can be replaced. Now, a guy like Crowder goes through boycotts every time, so something like this can be extremely damaging. Then if Crowder gets any type of content strike to the point that they cannot monetize him, he will also lose 25% of his pay. He is already demonetized on YouTube, so once again I understand why Crowder would not like a deal like this. There is also heavy punishment for being banned on any social media platform. So with all of this, there are obviously two sides to this whole story. From the Daily Wire's perspective, they say that they take all of the risk involved here, so therefore it is only fair that they monetize but also punish when they cannot do so. The contract that Steven is complaining about is $50 million over 4 years, and as such, it is his responsibility to operate within the boundaries of these tech companies, otherwise they will lose money. Jeremy Boring explains that the penalties pretty much come down to them paying per episode, and as long as he delivers those episodes, he gets paid, and if he does not deliver them, then he gets no pay. He also states that it is only fair that the Daily Wire is protected against Steven saying something stupid, and then them not being able to make any of their money back. He stated that it is a big risk to pay such a large sum of money, and therefore monetization will be key. He also explained that Crowder gets a certain amount of money, and once again we now know that to be $50 million. With that, he is required to produce his show. Out of this deal, the Daily Wire will also get a certain amount of money, and with that, they will be required to promote the show and also pay company expenses and staff. There has obviously been a lot of conversation about this online, and as you can imagine, the Daily Wire people are defending their own. Ben Shapiro stated that Crowder knows nothing about business, contract negotiations, or friendship and decency. Another member of the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh, also went on a rant. I wanted to go over everything he said, but there were probably 50 tweets and I do not feel like doing that. To sum everything up, he pretty much just said that Crowder is a liar. Jeremy Boring, for his part, also stated that Crowder has always depended on other bigger companies to do his show and therefore he knows nothing about running a business. He stated that it was unrealistic for Crowder to expect Daily Wire to take all the risk, while Crowder insists that it was very exploitative to punish people over big tech censorship. There is probably a lot more that I did not cover, but this is pretty much where we are right now. It seems that Crowder is going to build up his own company and with that become completely independent. But then, let's move on and talk about the next topic on the list, and this is something that I have been covering all week. The train wreck that is the latest HBO Max show Velma. The show has been riddled with backlash and controversy even before it was released, as they seem dead set on going after the fans that they want to actually watch the show. Once the first 2 episodes have been released, both critics and fans took the opportunity to express their feelings about the series, and unanimously, it has been agreed that there are almost no redeeming qualities. Showrunner Mindy has pretty much been getting it from both sides, as the left has criticized her for playing into stereotypes and pretty much saying that they are not going far enough, while people on the other side have been saying that it is a completely woke fest. Obviously, I should not have to point this out, but whenever we talk about cartoons, we should never have to discuss politics, but sadly, policies are now forced into every part of life, even cartoons, so here we are talking about it in that sense. The people who are able to look past the politics and just give an objective view based on the quality of the show also do not have too many positive things to say about it. Just like how I do not have too many positive things to say about people that does not like and subscribe. Anyway, Velma embodies nothing from the original character and is just a self-insertion from the showrunner Mindy, and the rest of the Scooby Gang has nothing to do with the original. You can make the argument that the original work does not have to form part of the new work, but even if you do, there is still one important piece that is essential to every story, even if it is a rewrite. And that is whether or not the show is any good, and sadly in this case, it is not. As already well established, episodes 1 and 2 have been received extremely poorly, and with the next 2 episodes now out, things are not going any better when it comes to the opinions of fans. When the first 2 episodes of the show dropped, HBO Max was very quick to claim victory in all of this by stating the show was their most successful cartoon on the network, but it is also worth pointing out that is their only show on the network and everything else has been cancelled and removed. A lot has been made about hate watching the show, and I do think that it played a massive part in ratings for it. Most people heard about the show and how terrible it was and wanted to go over and take a look for themselves. Now that they know it is not an exaggeration, it will be shocking if those big rating numbers continue over into week 2. The new set of episodes was dragged in the same manner as the first 2, and most do expect things to only get worse from here. Forbes, in their review of the show, wrote, "Last week, Velma was trending after launch mainly for how bad it was, which resulted in proxy trends as everyone tried to understand what Mindy Kaling was thinking with the series. But while Kaling is the face and voice of the series, she has not written or directed any of the episodes, including the 2 new ones today." WB bragged that Velma was the biggest HBO Max premiere for an animated series ever. That means, effectively nothing, given that HBO Max recently killed off most of their animated originals because no one was allegedly watching them. And the only other Max original animated series that comes to mind is Harley Quinn, which technically premiered on DC Universe back when that was its own streaming service. So yes, there's some amount of spin going on here. After 2 more episodes, nothing has changed my mind about this being an ill-conceived idea, though I don't think it's a right-wing psyop to make liberals look bad. I think it's just normal bad. Now, again, it should be noted that not everyone agrees that the show is actually that bad. Most of the people pushing back, of course, all use the same talking points, stating it is just people who do not like diversity who criticize the show, but once again, if you look at the majority of the pushback, most people are just disappointed in the bad writing and complete lack of respect for the original characters. Be that as it may, our magazine does defend the show by saying, unfortunately, most of the hate being aimed at the show isn't just a huge overreaction to a fairly good show with a lot of potential, but it's also led by an angry mob of online trolls who haven't watched the show and wouldn't give it a fair shake if they did. At the time of writing, Velma has an absurd 6% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 1.4 out of 10 star rating on IMDb. Some viewers are calling it one of the worst shows they've ever seen. Those viewers are not telling the truth, and most of them have only seen the first 2 episodes, not the entire series. It's not just the faith that's bad in these criticisms, it's the rationality, logic, and the basic media literacy. Velma is a good show. Many of the critics themselves are being racist. The show was created by a white man named Charlie Grandy, but all of the hate is being levied at Mindy Kaling, the woman of color who executive produces and stars. Some haters online have also begun calling the lead character Black Velma because they didn't watch the show before they judged and reviewed it and are racist enough to not know the difference between black people and South Asian people. So once again, it is pretty much what you expect. Again, I would agree that there are some people who have a problem with a more diverse cast, and I am not in support of that. This is my own personal opinion, but something that I believe in, and that is the fact that diversity is good and important. I will always be in support of it. I do not even mind a race swap or a sex swap. If I think about what makes a show good, the skin color of a character is not even on the list. If the show is good and the storytelling grabs my attention, I do not care. However, when it comes to shows like Velma, oftentimes they do these type of race swapping, and it might even be in a very well-intended manner. But the people who end up doing this also are the same people who just suck at writing, so the shows end up horrible and just hurt the people they tried to represent. Those same showrunners then turn around and instead of taking accountability for the bad writing, instead turn on the fans and just call them a bunch of bad names. This then just causes more division. The simple truth is that Velma is not a good show. Most people agree with this point. One look at the reviews will tell you that the hate for the show comes from the writing and not the diverse cast. A small minority of people might have a problem with diversity, but for most, they can do without the penis jokes. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the gift that just does not stop giving. G4 TV and their wonderful hosts Frosk and Adam Sassler. By this point, I am sure that I do not need to explain to anyone the disaster that was the failed launch of G4 TV. One of the most talked about moments in the relaunch of the show was the now infamous online meltdown from Frosk, where she decided to completely go off on fans, telling them if they did not like it that they should not watch it. This was obviously a very poorly timed rant, as most would agree that it is not a good idea to go off on your audience in such a manner. It is best to avoid any political or social issues in the gaming space. People tune in to hear your views on games, and most are not there to hear what your take is on a certain social issue. They want to hear about the latest Halo game, not about how sexist they are for not agreeing with some random issue you decided to make up. With that said, fans were obviously not having any of it and ultimately just left. Now, it should be noted that G4 would have failed no matter what. It was not the rant that ended the show, but it definitely did not help to win any fans over. The aftermath of the rant, though, has been quite interesting to follow. Although there was some suggestion even from Frosk herself that the rant was pre-approved, recent comments from Adam Sassler have suggested otherwise. He recently went on a podcast to discuss a multitude of different things, and part of the conversation did revolve around the failures of G4 TV as well as the rant from Frosk, where he suggested that it was not in fact pre-planned and might not have been the best thing to do at that moment. Although he continued to show his full support for Frosk. Although Sassler denied having any pre-existing knowledge of the rant, he did say that the only thing he would have warned Frosk about before delivering her speech was all of the backlashes. Since all of this, though, Sassler did announce that he would be leaving the gaming industry for good, but he was not the only one to do so. Frosk also recently took to Twitter to announce her own departure from the gaming world, and with it also took the time to blast a few friends, or what she called former friends. Now, although there is no proof, many are speculating that some of these comments could be in direct response to Adam Sassler and the things he said on the podcast. Frost said on Twitter, "I've been angry for a long time with my peers for not using their power and voice to stand up for others in the industry. Had to come to some hard terms that people who I'd known for years, who I thought were good friends, just weren't. Devastated me for a long time. Anyway, I'm leaving the industry, found new work elsewhere. This industry is really messed up, and what happened to me and plenty of others wasn't fair, and it could have been avoided if we had all stood up together. You let me down, but I get why. Cheers and good luck." Again, it is hard to say for certain who she is talking about here, but considering that we know all of her peers, it is not hard to figure everything out. Now, it should also be pointed out that Frosk herself took to social media right after G4 TV decided to lay off a bunch of people and celebrated the fact that she survived the cut. This was an extremely insensitive thing to do after your peers just lost their jobs, so the fact that she now expects support from those same peers who she put under the crossfire with her rant to support her is very ironic. I have no doubt that some of these peers she is referring to just wanted to go on the show and talk about games. Unfortunately, they were all forced to all of a sudden make political and social stances, and that is very hard to do when you are supposed to be talking about the latest Witcher DLC. The reality is that Frosk decided to use a gaming platform to make a political stand, and instead of being a reviewer, she decided to be an activist. The simple truth of the matter is this: you can be an activist or you can be a gamer, and in some cases, you can even be both, but you cannot do your activism work while reviewing a game. Anyway, this is where I am going to end it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more videos like this, and I hope to see you again next time.